Welcome to the audiobook, Pregnant After a Night with My Sister's Husband. Written by Sylvia Adely. Narrated by 𝘕𝘂𝘠𝘠. Chapter 1. A Night with My Sister's Husband. A pixie is fine. She will literally be my clone once you do it on her, Gigi said. Do it. Annabelle nodded, and the hairstylist got to work. I really don't want Richard to suspect this. We are newlyweds, and the last thing I want is for us to have trust issues in our marriage, Gigi bragged. She couldn't stop talking about CEO Richard Murphy of Murphy Group of Companies. He was the wealthiest man in the small town 𝘕𝘏𝑉𝘀. Many ladies had tried their best to get him to pick them in the bride selection process that his parents organized for him. But he picked Gigi. Gigi was the chosen one, literally. Annabelle knew that what she was about to do was wrong, but she couldn't stop herself. She had already committed to this. She was going to spend the night with her half-sister's husband, the so-called Mr. Wealthy. Gigi was almost falling into depression when she learned that she was barren. This was going to be a huge block in their marriage, because Richard made it clear from the word go that all he cared about was an heir to his property. This is after his parents insisted on choosing a bride for him. He had been single for way too long, and the way he viewed women and he approached them was wanting. He was so cold and arrogant. He was selfish. He didn't believe in love or that fantasy bullshit. All he believed in is hard work, and it clearly showed in his job. He married Gigi for an heir, and Gigi had to have a child. She was not ready to break up with him. Not after the grand wedding that has left everyone in town burning in envy. They all wished that they were her. Gigi went to her dad with this troubling reality of being barren. She had not thought of another way around it, and that is when her dad suggested that Annabelle, her half-sister, should be her surrogate. Truth be told, they have never seen each other eye to eye. They all didn't like her, including her own father. Anyway, for the sake of the surrogacy, they decided to be kind towards her and use her to get what they wanted. It really troubled Gigi to know that her sister was going to sleep with her husband. But her father convinced her to look at the bigger picture. And that is, she will be able to give Richard the baby he craved for. Who knows? The baby might make him fall madly in love with her. She is already living a perfect life. And when this happens, then their marriage will be out of this world. It'll be written in romance novels, because the level of perfection will be unmatched. Once Annabelle sleeps with him and gets pregnant, she will start pretending to be pregnant. When she gives birth, she will take the baby and will show up and tell Richard that she has birthed a baby for him. Perfect. She loved how everything played in her head. She had initially thought that this was a big deal, but it has been reduced to nothing. She didn't care about Annabelle's feelings whatsoever. She was a servant, and this will be part of her service. She really had nothing to worry about. As Annabelle sat on the makeup chair, watching them transform her to look exactly like Gigi, she recalled that night when her father called her. This was the first time that he actually did. They didn't talk much. He was so obsessed with Gigi and her mother, and he didn't really care about her. Ever since her mother died, and he married her, things have changed between them. They had a good father-daughter relationship, but that too changed. When her father asked her to be her sister's surrogate, she immediately said yes. She wanted to please him so badly, and when he smiled, he gave her the validation that she needed. Annabelle felt that Richard was attractive. She, however, didn't think much about it, because she felt that he would never even look towards her direction. She was not a classy girl. She might be from a wealthy family, but she is more of a servant.
Thank you, daughter.
her father told her before patting her on the back and walking away. She felt so happy. She knew that whole being her sister's surrogate, she would be able to fix her relationship with her father. She really needed him. She needed him to say that she loves her just like the way she loves him. "You look so pretty, Annabelle. Just like me. I want you to own him tonight. He is my husband, but this is your night with him. Do it for me. Do it for your lovely sister, I mean." "What are sisters for?" Gigi asked, while forcing a smile. "I will sleep with him tonight. Trust me. I won't let you down," Annabelle said, winking at her. Chapter 2. Own the Night. Honestly speaking, Annabelle was lying. She did not know anything about bedroom matters since she was a virgin. She had never done it before. She had never, ever fallen in love to begin with. She had only read about love in fiction novels. Other than that, she was blank. She was lying so that Gigi would entrust her to do this because she desperately wanted validation from her father. She wanted to feel loved by him. "I guess I have nothing to worry about then," Gigi said, faltering from her thoughts. "Yes, sure," she said, arching her lips upwards. She had to go to a site and learn the basics of sex. Otherwise, she will have let her sister down. Annabelle had never felt this pretty until this very day. Her parents always made it clear that Gigi was the most beautiful one, and therefore, she did not stand a chance despite having flawless skin. She was not allowed to wear makeup. This is actually the first time that she is wearing makeup. Even though they have done it just like Gigi normally does, she still felt beautiful. "You are perfect. Just like me. Come on, let's go," Gigi instructed. Annabelle killed some time straightening a crease out of her dress before she stared at herself in the mirror. She smiled a little because she loved this new version of her. She will look her best tonight, and Richard better be ready for this. "Annabelle, come on," Gigi called when she realized that she was taking too long. Annabelle laughed a little before she followed her half-sister to her pink Mercedes-Benz that Richard had bought her as a gift after the two of them got married. "I love your car," Annabelle said. She had never ridden with her half-sister before. Gigi didn't even used to talk to her. This surrogacy thing is what has actually brought the two of them together. "It's perfect," Gigi said as she skillfully reversed out of the parking lot. They were now headed to their matrimonial home, which sat at the prime piece of land that had a nice view of the entire town. Gigi turned the stereo up so that Annabelle could not continue with the small talk. She was only tolerating her for the sake of the surrogacy. Otherwise, she would be at home washing dishes, because there is where she belongs. Annabelle watched in awe as they drove into Gigi's matrimonial home. Apart from the huge bungalow, there was a well-maintained garden with a swimming pool. Her mouth was agape. Her sister was living like a queen. She had so many servants to attend to her needs. It was a few minutes to 7 p.m., hence they served them dinner, which they ate in silence. After that, Gigi gave the servants a mandatory off. She did not want any of them being nosy and finding out what she was up to. After dinner, Gigi started drinking and Annabelle was seated, playing the plan in her head. It was not going to be long before Richard showed up and she needed to have mastered what she was supposed to do. The plan was pretty simple. Richard always comes home drunk on Friday nights, and they were going to use this to their advantage. Once he arrives, Annabelle would be in her sister's bedroom waiting for him. She will be seated at the edge of the bed with Gigi's lingerie on. This is enough to turn him on. Once he is finally turned on, the two of them will have sex, and she would be able to conceive. She was going to take care of the pregnancy and the baby growing on her belly, and after 9 months, she was going to hand the baby to her mother, Gigi. She had been so keen doing this so that Richard never suspects anything. He will be in the dark all along. If this ends up being successful, then her father would be proud of her, and this is what she wanted so badly. Gigi lit a cigarette and started smoking. She hated to be in this position. She wished that she could be able to give birth. Anyway, she had to do all it takes. She is already having a good time, married to the wealthiest man in town, and she was not willing to end their marriage because of her inability to conceive. She watched Annabelle smiling to herself, and this made her stomach churn. She was never going to be best friends with her. She hated her and her naivety. She hated her because she had a good soul. Once she gives birth, she will cancel her from her life and continue hating her. She is prettier than her even without makeup, and she hated it. Her father and mother gas her up all the time, but it is crystal clear. Annabelle had proven to be better than her in all things, and that is why she hated her so much. Richard was at a private party, and he kept on adding more and more drinks to his table.
"Drink up," he told everyone around. "I will fucking pay. You all know that I have no issue when it comes to money. I am wealthy as fuck,"
he bragged as they cheered him to go on. He gulped down more drinks before he cursed once again. He hated this new reality of being married. He was not used to someone coming to his space. He was used to being a bachelor, hooking up with different girls when he pleased. He wasn't ready for this life. He might have had the most beautiful girl in town as his bride, but still that is not enough for him. He wanted his freedom back. He wished that this was a horror dream that he would wake up from. He only married Gigi because his parents pressured him into marrying a woman. They believed that he was getting old and he needed an heir to his wealth. He really hoped that Gigi will get pregnant sooner because his parents can't stop pestering him about it. Maybe once she gets pregnant, then they will leave him alone to do what he pleases. Who knows? He might choose to divorce Gigi afterwards after getting what he wanted. He didn't believe in marriage. He believed in freedom. And that is what he was striving to get, eventually. I know you don't know this, and I'm going to tell you. That lingerie I have given you to wear is so expensive. I bought it when we went to Paris for our honeymoon, Gigi told Annabelle, who was busy fitting the lingerie in the bathroom. Honestly speaking, she loved the fit of it. It articulated all of her curves. She looked so sexy. She had never seen herself like this before. She always thought that she was ugly and unworthy of love until this very minute. You look so... Gigi had to catch herself from saying sexy. She didn't look close to what Annabelle looked when she wore the lingerie. She didn't want to admit that she was better than her, and that is why she didn't tell her the truth. I look so what? Annabelle wanted to know. Never mind. I have to go. I'll be waiting in the next room. Now, sit on my bed and look sexy. This is your night with him. Make it count, Gigi said before excusing herself to leave. Chapter 3. A Night with Him. Annabelle sat on her sister's bed and ran her hand through her bed cover, taking a deep breath to absorb the moment. She couldn't believe that she was really here, and the plan was about to be executed. Her heart was racing in her chest, and she had so many thoughts, especially how she was going to do it. She had never had sex before. She always told herself that she would have her first sex with the man that she will be madly in love with. But that is not the case. She needs to do this to get her father's approval. Annabelle didn't know if she was going to play her part well and make Richard crazy about her. She had never been in love before, and she did not know how these things work. Not finding the one doesn't mean that Annabelle did not believe in love. She loved love. She believed that love, only love, could take her loneliness away. She has never been lucky enough to find that person who will be crazy about her, but she has not given up on love. She is going to try when she hands over the baby to her sister. After this surrogacy, her life will bounce back to normal. She will have fixed her relationship with her dad, and things will flow well thereafter. She will achieve all her goals and dreams. Richard staggered to the main door. He was so tipsy. He wanted to go to bed and call it a night. It had been a long day already, and all that he craved for was rest. He didn't want Gigi tonight. He was already sick and tired of having her around, and failing to see her around would be such a huge blessing. He didn't bother to eat. He had done that already. He took the lift and ended up right outside his bedroom door. He had all intentions of going straight to sleep, but seeing Gigi dressed in that lingerie made him change his mind. Damn, he'd had never really paid attention to see this sexy side of her. Forget about sleeping. He definitely must appreciate her efforts and make love to her tonight. With a smile plastered on his face, he got rid of his shirt and trousers and moved closer to where Gigi was seated. She had barely moved an inch. Annabelle didn't know what to do now that Richard was fast approaching her. She really had this feeling that this was a bad idea. She had to get out of this bedroom as fast as possible. She was standing to leave when Richard moved closer to her, and the musky smell of his cologne eased to her nose, raising all the hairs of her body. She had never been so close to a man before. Her heart was racing, threatening to jump out of her chest. "You are so beautiful," Richard said as he ran his fingers down her body, and she felt electrical tingles of excitement dancing under his touch. Heat sipped through her skin as if she were made of paper. She let out a throaty moan as Richard made her look up to meet his eyes. Richard knew that he had really drunk more than usual when he noticed that Gigi looked different. She looked so innocent and beautiful. Annabelle was lost in his eyes. It is true what they say about him. He is so handsome with dark brown eyes and lips that beg to be kissed. She could feel herself getting wet just by the mere thought. He's clearly worth the price. Her sister had bagged the most handsome man on the planet. Richard inches in closer, and he could feel Gigi's breathing becoming more hazy, a sign that she wanted more. He captured her in a kiss, and Annabelle could not stop herself from moaning. She could not control her body anymore. She found herself kissing him. Everything flowed. Richard felt himself twitching under his pants because of the excitement that he felt. Tonight is really something else. He hoped that one of his friends had not added Viagra to his drink, because he felt like they had. All he wanted to do was to give Gigi a sexual pleasure that she will keep fantasizing over for the rest of her life. Richard stopped with the kiss and carefully carried her to bed. He then leant over and kissed her neck as he went down to her nipple. He stopped there and locked and sucked, playing his tongue around her most sensitive area. He could tell that she loved it by the way she was moaning his name as if it was a kind of spell. Annabelle knew that this went too far. She's not supposed to feel this way for her sister's husband. She's trying to help her sister conceive, not feeling this level of pleasure that he's giving her. Richard loved that she loved him touching and teasing every part of her body. She was literally shaking under his touch, and this made him go even harder. He loved being in control, and tonight, Gigi was giving him the level of control that he always wanted. He went down to lick her clit when Annabelle managed to push him away. This was too much. She had never felt this level of pleasure before. What if she fails to forget him after all this encounter? "What is up, my love?" Richard asked, because he was not expecting that kind of push. "I don't think that is a good idea," Annabelle shrugged. She was really trying to fight her body, which wanted more. "It is, baby. What do you mean? You are my wife. I am sorry that I have not been giving you all the attention that you deserve. But forget about the past. Tonight will be the night that I will redeem myself. I want to make you feel all the sweet pleasures, and you will fantasize this for the rest of your life. More importantly, you will never forget about me," Richard said in a soft voice, as he stroked her hair with his hand. And at this point in time, Annabelle's body betrayed her. She didn't say much. She pulled him close to her, and they continued kissing. Richard broke the kiss to go down on her, and he didn't stop until Annabelle released. She was shaking due to the pleasure she felt. It was more of an out-of-body experience. She had never felt that level of sweet pleasure before. Once Richard ensured that she was wet enough, He went in slowly and started making love to her. He did it slowly, the innocent one, as they stared deeply into each other's eyes. He enjoyed making love to her, and eventually, he released inside her shortly after she did, and they rode their highs together. He was obsessed with her. He pulled her close so that she could sleep next to him. Annabelle didn't know that she could eventually admit this, but she enjoyed every second that she spent with Richard. He was such a charming man, and she was going to remember him for the rest of her life. Chapter 4. You are pregnant.
You are so beautiful, my darling. I am not saying this because I am drunk. I am saying this because it is the truth. I am sorry that I have never noticed this before. Tonight, though, you look so different, and I swear I might be falling for you, Richard told Annabelle as he played with her hair, and she felt beautiful for the first time ever. She never knew that she was so beautiful until this very moment. He noticed her. He loved her. The problem is that despite her strong attraction toward him, she had to keep her distance. Richard was her sister's husband, for Christ's sake, and she should know any better than having wild thoughts about him. I love you, Annabelle admitted this to herself and him, but he didn't respond since he was already snoring. Damn. Annabelle slowly got out of the bed. Gigi had warned her against overstaying her welcome because that would get them caught. She had sworn to protect her secrets, and despite what she felt in her heart about him, she had to leave. As she made for the door, tears started streaming down her face. She didn't want to believe that this was surely over. This was like a game where she played her part, and that is over. As soon as she stepped out, Gigi grabbed her forcefully and walked her down the hallway. What the fuck, bitch? Gigi cursed once they were at a safe distance where Richard could barely hear them. What? What have I done? Annabelle asked in a low voice, avoiding eye contact with her so that she would not suspect that she was crying. What took you so long? What were the two of you actually doing? Gigi asked. She felt so jealous. Never once had she spent so much time with Richard having sex. What was so special about their lovemaking session? You want me to get to the details, right? Annabelle got hold of her emotions and started addressing the situation. Fuck. Why are you crying? Gigi asked when she realized that she had tears in her eyes. Heck, she had blown her cover. Nothing, Annabelle said, looking away. She was not about to open up to her sister that she was going to miss her husband after the intense lovemaking session that they had. You should go home now. Your work is done here. I have already requested my driver to take you home. Go now, Gigi said. And this was the most difficult thing. Annabelle didn't want to leave. When Gigi threw her a piercing look, she knew that she had to go. This was not her house. Her work here was done. On the ride home, Annabelle could not stop crying. She didn't want to believe that this is how it ends. She felt like she was being used, but the irony is that she agreed to all this in the first place. She allowed herself to be carried away by Richard, yet he didn't know her, let alone care for her. She should definitely have known better. It is going to take a while to forget him based on what they shared. He is the man who broke her virginity, for goodness sake. Anyway, it had to be done. She had to move on with her life as if tonight never happened. When she arrived home, she found her father still awake. How did it go? He asked. Everything went according to plan, she said with a small smile. Cool, he mumbled before grabbing his glass of whiskey and walking away. Annabelle could not believe that this was happening. She had just done the most to get him to like her, and all that he says is cool? She couldn't take it. She rushed to her room and locked herself in. She jumped to her bed, hugged her pillow, and started sobbing. She regretted every bit of tonight. She had second thoughts about this.
It turned out that she didn't want to be pregnant for Richard. This is a game, and she feels that she is the one who is going to get hurt. Gigi slept next to Richard, and he kept pulling her closer and kissing her. This had never happened before. Richard had always been so distant with her. What is it about Annabelle that awoke this side of him? Gigi lit the nightstand, and then she saw what got her heart racing. There was a blood stain in the white sheet. She never knew or even thought that Annabelle was a virgin. Damn, her husband broke her sister's virginity. This did not sit right with her. She went to the bathroom and started crying. She wondered why her sister is always better than her in everything. She was always second in things when she gets involved. If her father had not banned her from the bride selection process, then she would have won, and she would be in her position at the moment. Gigi decided that she was not going to allow her to win. Not anymore. She is definitely going to do something about this. She is going to be on top of her game and will make her life a living hell so that she never stands a chance. Wiping her tears away, Gigi went to join her husband in bed. Of course, she changed the covers. She didn't want Richard finding out that he fucked her sister, who was better than her in all aspects. Annabelle barely managed to take a pill to protect herself in the pregnancy since her father had installed CCTV in her room. She was not allowed to leave until it was confirmed that she was pregnant. She had to eat healthy and to stay in her room. Even if Annabelle hated this, she didn't have any choice. She had to do it. This day marked 2 weeks since she slept with her sister's husband. If she says that she had never fantasized about that night, then she would be lying. She has fantasized about that night more than once. Actually, that is all she thinks about. She heard a soft knock on the door, and before she went to get it, Gigi barged in carrying 2 pregnancy test kits. She shoved it at her and asked her to go and use it. Annabelle didn't have a choice. It was crystal clear that they were using her for their own benefit. Her father was never going to love her, and so was her half-sister Gigi. She was so stupid to think otherwise. Anyway, she hoped that the test was going to turn negative. She wanted to get out of this game as soon as possible. She shouldn't have involved herself with them to begin with. Annabelle came back with the test kit, and the waiting game began. When the alarm went off eventually, it was time to look, and Gigi was the one who did it. Seeing her smiling was her worst nightmare. She knew that her fears had been confirmed. What had she done? "Annabelle, you are pregnant! You are carrying my child!" Gigi said. She barely hid her excitement. She couldn't wait to share the good news with her dad. Chapter 5. Telling the Secret. Gigi barely hid her excitement. She rushed to her dad and pulled him into a tight embrace.
What is it, my daughter?
He was anxious to know what was making her so excited.
"She is pregnant, Dad. Your plan worked,"
Gigi said, and he burst into a rib-crackling laughter.
I told you that you have nothing to worry about, didn't I? He reminded her.
"Yes, Dad,"
Gigi said, and a minute passed before she realized that they had to talk of Annabelle. For some reason, she could not stand her. She was not over the fact that her husband had sex with her for a long while. He has never been this way with her. To add salt to the injury, she had changed him. Right now, Richard is more obsessed with her. He has never been this way. There was surely something about Annabelle that she was jealous of. She deserves to have this kind of power, not Annabelle. What about Annabelle? How do we go about this? Gigi asked. Let me remind you that I don't like her. I tolerated her for the sake of the pregnancy, Gigi added.
You have nothing to worry about. She is a servant. She will always be a servant. We will control her the way that we want, he said, not knowing that Annabelle was right outside the door.
She had come to get water when she heard them talking about her.
Sometimes you shock me, Dad. You talk as if she's not your daughter.
Anyway, I am happy that you have made me the apple of your eye, Ggg said, arching her lips upwards.
I don't like her. I hate her, he said, and Annabelle could not take it.
The glass fell off her hands and shattered, pouring all the contents on the floor. The noise caught the attention of Ggg and her dad, who rushed there and found her trying to gather the broken pieces of the glass with her hand.
Stop it, for goodness sake! You're going to hurt yourself,
Ggg said. She did not want her to get hurt because she is carrying her baby.
Be more careful next time. Go to your room and rest. The other maid will clear this mess, he ordered,
and Annabelle left, her eyes forcing an ocean of tears. She couldn't believe that her own father would confess to hating her. What did she do to deserve this? All that she knows is that she had tried so much to be a good daughter. This plan had really gone the opposite direction. Her father did not end up liking and adoring her, yet she is pregnant. Annabelle went to the bathroom and cried even more. She wished that this was a horrific dream that she could easily wake up from. As she wiped her tears away after a long while of crying, a thought came to mind. Richard is in the dark about all this, and maybe if she tells him the truth, then he will divorce Ggg because she is barren, and be with her because she is pregnant for him. This way, she will be with the man of her dreams, and her life will take a positive turn because right now, she is falling apart. Chapter 6. Perfect Couple. After knowing what the course of action was going to be concerning Annabelle, Ggg went back home. She showered and changed into a sexy dress and 6-inch stiletto heels. She had a plan that she wanted to accomplish and was not about to waste any time. She passed by her favorite makeup artist and had a face beat. She was extremely beautiful by the time she was taking the elevator to go to the top floor. This was the first time she went to Richard's office. She was happy that she was going to surprise him. Richard drank his evening cappuccino as he went through the ledger when he heard a soft knock on the door.
Come in,
he said as he swung in his chair. Ggg walked in, and he could feel the hairs of his body rising. He had never felt this effect on anyone else. Who knew that he would slowly start falling for his wedded wife? Damn, after that night, Richard started having a deep feeling about Ggg. Prior to that night, he would have sent her away. But today, he wanted her. All of her. Especially that sexy outfit that she had worn for him. Damn, this woman was going to be the end of him someday. He could feel it in his bones. Baby, Ggg said as she seductively walked over to her table taking a seat. She then proceeded to play with his tie. Richard was so caught up looking at her thighs, having wild fantasies, that he didn't realize his door was pushed open.
What now, Sandra?
He shouted at the secretary who came in with a file.
I am so sorry, boss,
Sandra mumbled. She had not expected to find him with a woman.
Can't you see I'm having a moment with my wife?
Richard hissed.
I will fire you for lack of manners,
he ordered.
Get out,
he said, and the chickened-out Sandra rushed out. Ggg was not expecting this from him. Prior to the night with Annabelle, Richard was a workaholic. He would rather be at work than spend time with her. Since then, things have changed. She should be grateful, or what now? Richard could not take in how much he was turned on. He used his remote to lock the door and pull down his blinds. Ggg watched in awe as he lifted her off the table and led her to the secret balcony. He made her bend for him before he started fucking her. Ggg moaned as Richard pushed in and out. When he was finally released, they went to his office bedroom to relax.
I am happy that you come. You should do this more often, Richard told her as she took a strand of hair that was on her forehead and tucked it behind her ear.
What about work? Gigi asked. It was no secret. She knew that Richard loved his work more than her.
Work can wait,
Richard said while smiling widely. Gigi felt so loved. Everything was perfect. It will even be better when she tells him the truth. I have something to show you, Gigi said as she got out of bed, and Richard was confused.
What?
He looked around. Gigi went to her handbag and fetched a book about fatherhood. She then handed it to him.
What about this? Do you want me to foster a good relationship with my father?
He asked as he flipped through the pages. No, of course not. Richard, I am pregnant, Gigi said after sighing loudly. And Richard could not believe it. The idea of having a little man who was going to be like him crowded his mind, and he got out of bed to hug Gigi. He now understood why she handed him the book in the first place.
You don't know how proud I am. You have indeed proven yourself and made me the happiest man in the world. I promise to you, Gigi, is my loyalty, and that I will spoil you with all my money.
Richard made a vow. Earlier, he would have been relieved to know that he would divorce her after the baby comes. But right now, he wants her. The idea of even leaving her for a minute does not sit right with him. Gigi was excited with the turn of events. This baby was going to make her perfect marriage a reality. The two lovebirds went out for drinks before they went home to make love once again. Richard was such a charming man, and the king of fairy tale. He understood what women want, and that is what he was going to give Gigi. He wanted her to have a Cinderella reality because she was going to bore him a child. In 3 days, he had already planned a trip for the two to the Maldives. They took a private jet there, and they spent their entire week at a 5-star hotel. Gigi could not imagine that this was her new reality. It had beat what she had wished for her entire life. She loved every single minute that she spent with him. She took so many videos and memories because she believed that photographs are the best tools to store memories. She posted some images for the world to see that she is indeed Miss Murphy, and she is living a perfect life. Annabelle expected pregnancy to be a walk in the park, but that was not it. It was far worse than she had expected. A month in, she started getting her morning sickness. She would spend so much time in the bathroom throwing up, and after that she could feel so much hunger. The antidote to this was to eat well, but she barely did that since she had lost her appetite. This new experience was taking a toll on her. She would cry almost every day. She wanted to make it stop. She regretted being naive and foolish to subscribe to this nonsense of helping her sister to conceive. She should have known better, especially now that she is sure that her father hates her. He would never love her, and that is okay. At least she is trying to make peace with that. Gigi was the happiest woman in the world. After their trip to the Maldives, she came home and found that Richard had bought a new house that sat in a vast piece of land. It had over 6 baths and bathrooms. It had a swimming pool, basketball court, a small farm, and a nice parking lot. Gigi thought that it would end there, until he bought her a new car. A red, sexy Ferrari, for that matter.
Thank you for giving me a baby. This is just the beginning. I will give you so much more. What is mine is yours, my love,
Richard told her before he left for work the next morning. As soon as Richard left, Gigi freshened up and went to see her father.
She told him of how their marriage had changed after the pregnancy announcement, and he was happy for her. He told her that things are under control, and she should not worry about Annabelle because she would dance to their tune. This made Gigi feel even more happy and confident. She hugged her dad tightly. He was really an angel on earth. If it were not for him, then Richard would have divorced her by now. What they didn't know was that Annabelle was listening to their conversation. She felt that Gigi did not deserve the treatment that she is getting. She's only luring Richard. The only person who should be getting the princess treatment should be her. She is really going through a lot in the pregnancy, and she should be awarded for it, not Gigi. Chapter 7. You Are Jealous. Annabelle decided she had to man up and do something about this. She'd allow them to walk all over her, but this is a great chance for her to fix it. She wiped her tears away and went to the bathroom to have a warm shower. She took her time thereafter to dress up. By dressing up, she wore a black maxi dress that she wore on her mother's funeral. That is the only expensive clothing that she had. The rest were torn and not so good looking. She knew where Richard's company was. She was going to show up and tell him the truth. He had been in the dark for way too long. Her father was lost in watching a documentary, and Annabelle took that chance to sneak out. She didn't have any money with her. Therefore, she was forced to walk to the company. It was going to take her an hour to get it, but she was willing to do it. If this is the sacrifice she had to show to gain the bigger reward, then she was ready to do it. By the time she was arriving at the reception, she was sweating all over. Her feet were dusty, and her mouth had dried up. But that did not stop her. She was here to tell the truth, and she was not going to leave until Richard listened to her. The secretary was not in, so she decided to usher herself to his office. He was actually going to thank her after listening to what she had to say. "Hi, sir. My name is Annabelle, and I'm here to tell you something," Annabelle said when she walked in and found Richard behind his desk, scrolling down his computer.
Who ushered you in? What the fuck? They have started to let beggars come to see me?
Richard felt nauseous just looking at Annabelle. He hated poor people, because a few he had been in contact with thought they deserved to have what he has just because he is rich. What they don't know is the sleepless nights he spent building his company. Annabelle found it hard to take in that Richard had referred to her as a beggar, yet the last time they were together, he seemed to be enjoying her company. "I am not a beggar," she jumped to her defense.
Who are you then? And what do you want? I'm a very busy man. I don't have time for your kind,"
Richard said, and Annabelle felt as if she was stabbed in the heart. She never expected Richard to be this cold. She had this idea that he would be a kind man. Anyway, that is not the case. Not anymore. "I am Gigi's half-sister," Annabelle stammered. She couldn't talk well anymore. Tears were blinding her vision, and she could feel herself shaking. She never expected Richard to reduce her to nothing after everything that he had said to her that night.
Get out already, or I'll call my guards. You are an imposter. You are so jealous of my wife, ain't you? Please, don't try to associate yourself to her, because I honestly will not care for you. I love my wife, and you should stay the fuck away from us, you little silly beggar!"
Richard called her out, and right away he called his guards. He was sick of seeing her miserable face. Annabelle felt her heart break into 1,000 little fragments. Tears were now streaming down her face like water from a faulty tap. She could barely walk. She felt very weak on her knees. She lost her balance, and she fell on her knees as she continued crying. But it was not for too long before Richard's guards forcefully grabbed her and threw her out of the building. Annabelle could not stop crying as she walked home. This was the darkest day of her life. She had expected to come out of Richard's office with good news, but that was not the case. She came out of that office broken. She had thought that Richard was a good man basing on that night, but it has finally hit her that Richard was an arrogant and cold CEO. She hated him. Annabelle walked into her father's house, and she was scolded for leaving. Her father slapped her. He did not care that she was not okay. Annabelle went to her room and cried. She wished that there was something she could do about the situation. She can't take this anymore. Richard went straight home after work to spend more time with Gigi when he recalled the lady who had come earlier. He decided to confirm if indeed Gigi had a half-sister. He was sure that she didn't, since she would have been present in their wedding. Anyway, just to clear the air, he decided to ask.
Baby, do you have a half-sister by the name Annabelle?
Richard asked during their massage. No, why? Gigi lied. But internally, she was fighting the anger she felt. How did Richard get to know of this? She did not want to believe that Annabelle showed up in the office to try and tell him her secret.
There's a lady who comes by. She looked like a beggar. I instantly knew that she could not be your sister. I threw her out. I know desperate women when I see them. She was trying to associate herself with you so that I could look at her direction. Anyway, she's not my type. She was wasting her time,
Richard said. And for the first time ever, Gigi felt that Richard was indeed in love with her. He saw Annabelle, but he still chose her, to mean that she stands a chance. Damn, this makes her unstoppable. Even if Richard had assured her that she would never date someone like her, she decided that Annabelle had to be taught a lesson. She should know better than trying to tell Richard her secret. The next day when she went home, Gigi ensured that Annabelle was guarded all the time. She was not supposed to leave, and never was she supposed to even have a phone or contact with the world. She was more of a prisoner, except for the fact she had to have good meals and a good doctor to tend to her because she is carrying Richard's heir. A week after Gigi made the rules, Annabelle decided that she was not going to do this anymore. She had allowed them to use her as a doormat for so long. It is about time that she leaves. She was going to disappear without a trace. This will be for her peace of mind and for revenge. Let's see what Gigi would do about that. Besides, she was not going to let her baby be raised by mean and selfish people. She was going to protect the baby growing in her tummy at all costs. Gigi and Richard will never see her baby for as long as she is alive. If they try going after her, then she will make their lives a living hell just like the way they have done to her. Chapter 8. She ran away. Gigi's rules were enforced so much that Annabelle didn't manage to run away. She had been planning to do this for close to 4 months, but her plans kept failing. Her pregnancy had grown, and it was actually showing. She had stopped crying about it because she promised herself that she was going to be strong for her baby. She was not going to allow those mean and bad people to take the child away from her. 2 months later, Annabelle realized that if she does not run away, then she will lose this war against them. She had to do it. She begged the guard to let her go out to have some fresh air. In the process, she used the back gate to run away. She wasn't far away when the guard noticed and started chasing after her. She tried walking faster because she didn't want to be caught, but it was impossible since she was pregnant. She had to hatch a plan. Annabelle decided to sit and wait for the guard to catch up with her. Of course, she had a plan in mind. "Where do you think you're going?" The guard was beyond pissed. She had betrayed his trust. How dare she try and run away after being given a moment to have some fresh air? "I'm so sorry. Let's go then." Annabelle sighed before standing. They were about to walk back home when Annabelle took a log and hit him gently on his head. Not enough to make him die, but enough to make him lose consciousness. The guard fell, and Annabelle knew that this was her time to finally leave this horrible place. Most people say that their happiness is at its maximum when they get home, but this was not the case with Annabelle. In fact, she felt a sigh of relief as she walked away from home. She was lucky to find a cab. She got in and told the guy to drive her to the train station. Finally, after months of being patient, she had managed to pull this. She was never going to go back home. She felt that this was a perfect revenge, especially now that Gigi was stuffing her tummy pretending to be pregnant. What is she going to do now that she has fled? She will not have a baby to bring home because she was pulled out of that plan. This will leave her devastated. And this is exactly what Annabelle wished for her. As for Richard, he will face the pain of being lied to about something sensitive like having a baby. Both of them are going to pay for humiliating her. Annabelle knew that she would never forgive them. They had really messed her up, and they really didn't deserve forgiveness from her. If any of them decides to come after her or her baby, then they will face her wrath. She has changed. She is no longer the Annabelle they used to know. But one thing will remain clear. She will be the most loving single parent to her child. That will never change about her. Annabelle's father was from a local joint when he came back to an empty house. He looked around for Annabelle and the guard, but they were nowhere to be seen. He ran to the security camera and saw them leaving the house. He felt sweat trickle down his face. His hand instantly started shaking. He hopes that what he is thinking is not the reality, because what is he going to do if Annabelle runs away? What will be the fate of Gigi? He started calling by calling the guard. The sound of his phone ringing made him regain his consciousness. When he picked up, he confirmed his fears by telling him that he had done everything he could do to stop her from running away, but he was not able to. Annabelle's dad felt like wetting his pants. He paced around as he ran his hand through his head. He was sweating from all corners of his face. He didn't know what to do. This plan was going to be a success. Damn! What is he going to do about this? Once he managed to pull his shreds of control together, he called the guard and another team to look for Annabelle around town. They must find her. If they would be able to, then he was going to reward them. After giving the orders, he fidgeted nervously, hoping that they were going to find Annabelle, and they would bring her back home to him. Trust you me, Annabelle was surely going to pay for trying to run away. She does not know what is in store for her when she comes back home. Annabelle took a train that was going to take her to a different state. She was going to stay there for a day before she took a flight to leave the country. She didn't want to risk being found, because things will not end up well for her. No one goes against her father. She will surely face the consequences if she is caught. By the time the guard and the other officers arrived at the town she was in, she had already left the country. They were never going to find her. They broke the news to her dad, shattering his heart even more. He had never been on the edge of things before. What was he supposed to do? He went to his room and cried. He didn't know what he had done wrong. All was well until this. Don't get him wrong, he loved his daughter Annabelle. It's just that he could not show it because her mother betrayed him before she died. That's why he hates her. She took after her, and seeing her reminds him of her mother's betrayal. As for Gigi, he loves her so much because her mother came into the picture and brought him so much happiness. That makes her the apple of his eye. Today, however, he is going to fail her for the first time ever. He did not know how to disclose the news to her. She will be devastated, and this is not what he wanted. Anyway, he had to tell her the truth and find out how they are going to do damage control. That evening, he called Gigi to go home. From his tone, Gigi could tell that all was not well. She drove home and found her dad drowning himself with alcohol. He was almost finished with a bottle of gin.
"We lost her. She is gone,"
he said, and Gigi's heart skipped a mighty beat.
"What do you mean?"
she asked with a shaky voice.
"Annabelle ran away,"
he said, and Gigi shook her head in disagreement. What was she supposed to do? She had already stuffed her tummy. What was she going to tell Richard? This cannot be happening. Not now, not ever.
"How?"
Gigi asked before she smashed the bottle against the wall. She lost it completely. What is she supposed to do with this reality thrown at her face?
Calm down,
her father begged, but she wouldn't listen.
This was all your plan. You better fix this, or else you will be my biggest enemy after her. Fuck!
Gigi cursed. Chapter 9. The secret is out.
Honestly, child, I don't know how to fix this.
It was even harder for her dad to admit this to himself. Gigi could not take it anymore. He has literally ruined her life. What is she gonna do now?
I hate you, Dad. I hate you so much,
Gigi said before grabbing her handbag and walking out. Tears were stinging in her eyes as she got into her car. She wished that this was a terrible dream that she could wake up from. Gigi's dad could not believe that this was happening. Her words cut deeper than a knife. He wanted to fix this and make Gigi love him back, but he didn't know how to. He was at a loss. Gigi drove home safely, and when she locked herself in her room, she got rid of the stuffings and cried. This is the worst nightmare. Her life was perfect. How could that bitch do this to her? She swore that she was going to ruin her life if she ever met her. She felt so bitter. Why was she barren? What mistake did she make in her previous life to deserve this kind of treatment? She continued crying. She felt so much anger. Thank goodness Richard was at work the entire day. If not, he would have witnessed her at her most vulnerable moment. Gigi's dad barely slept. He kept thinking about what he was going to do to ensure that Gigi was all right. After a lot of stress and constant thinking, there was light at the end of the tunnel. He came up with something perfect. The next morning, he took his phone and called Gigi and asked her to go over. Gigi was still so angry at him, but she decided to go. She wanted to know if he had found a way to fix her problems. He tried to hug her, but Gigi was not there for that. She wanted to listen and respond to good news. Nothing except that.
I know you want to listen to good news, and that is exactly why I've called you here,
he said, reading her mind. Tell me already, Dad. Gigi was impatient. She was willing to receive the beam of hope that her father wanted to share.
I am going to look for a newborn. When the time comes, we will pretend that you are giving birth here at home. But in a real sense, we would have gotten the baby for you to go back home with,
he said, and Gigi didn't smile immediately. She had questions running through her mind. I really don't think that keeping up with the lies is a good idea. I have a bad feeling about this, she said.
You have to trust me. I have never failed you, and I am not about to. What I'm telling you to do is the right way,
he said, and Gigi was at a loss. She knew and felt that this was the right time to be frank with Richard about her infertility. But still, she could not do it. She didn't want to risk losing the life that she is living right now. Okay, Dad, Gigi agreed. At least there is hope.
Cheer up, my dear. I wanted to see you smile,
he suggested, and she ended up smiling widely. At least her problems had been solved. I love you, Dad. Gigi said it out loud, and her father was happy. Making Gigi happy was his top priority, and he was happy that he managed to do damage control to the situation. Anyway, as for Annabelle, if they ever find her by the secret detectives that he had hired, then she will see hell on earth. He was going to make her life a living hell. She is going to face his wrath. Gigi went home having a new ray of hope. She was happy. She wanted to celebrate this new win that would surely be a game changer. She will not lose anything. In fact, this will cement their relationship. They will surely be together for a lifetime. Richard had been keen with his pregnant wife to ensure that she was okay. Last night, however, he realized that she was restless. She was not her normal self. It felt like something was bothering her. Richard was not about to sit and see his wife go through stuff alone. He decided to surprise her with a trip to Bali. Once they were able to relax, she will open, and this will make him find out what has been bothering her, and then they will fix it. She was carrying his air. He didn't ever want to see her sad. He decided to get out of the office early. He passed by the flower shop and bought her a big bouquet of flowers. He also decided to buy her a yacht. He is a millionaire, so why not? Besides, she is the love of his life, and since she loves the ocean, a yacht will be a perfect gift for her. He had never gone home in the middle of the day. He was excited to do this because he felt that this in itself was a pleasant surprise. Gigi was such a party queen. She loved drinking expensive wines to mark a celebration, and today was no exception. She removed the stuffings and threw it aside. She connected music to the home theater before she started dancing and drinking. This is a good day, and she was so excited about it. She knew that by the time Richard comes home in the evening, the wine will be out of her system, and she will put the stuffing on and continue pretending to be pregnant. She is due in 2 months, and this means she is a good actress. Richard had never suspected something fishy going on. She was lost in dancing and twerking that she did not realize Richard was home until he turned down the volume of the stereo. He had arrived home, and he was received by a blasting music. This was unlike Gigi because she loved calmness. She is almost due, and she preferred sitting in silence. This did not make any sense. He walked in and turned down the music. He was about to mention the trip to Bali and the yacht when he noticed that Gigi was not pregnant. Lying on the chair nearby was a strap with a stuffing resembling a watermelon. This is what the actresses wear in movies. It did not take Richard too much time to realize that it had all been a game. Gigi was not pregnant to begin with. She had been lying to him. When the music was turned down, Gigi turned and saw Richard dropping the bouquet of flowers that was in his hand. The secret was out. What is she gonna do? She was lost for words. She started trembling and sweating all over. She was not expecting him. Why was he here in the first place? "What are you doing here?" she asked as she went to get the pregnancy stuffing, even though she knew that it was too late for that. She did not know what else to do.